Hi, my name is Dylan, and I'm going to do a book retell on the book, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Some of the characters are A.T. Wolf and the Three Little Pigs. The settings were the wolf's house and the Three Little Pigs' house. The problem was no one knows the true story of the Three Little Pigs, and everybody thinks the wolf is a bad guy. In the beginning, A.T. Wolf was going to make a cake for his granny. So he ran out of sugar. He went to look for someone who would give him a cup of sugar. In the middle, first he went to the first little pig's house and asked for a cup of sugar. And then he said no. Then he sneezed and he killed the first little pig, and he did the same thing with the second. But the third little pig was different. And the ending part was, so when A.T. Wolf asked for a cup of sugar for his cake for his granny, the third little pig said something mean, so the wolf sneezed and created a big scene, so he got put in jail and never got the cup of sugar he needed.
Hi, I'm Danny, and I'm going to do a retell on this book, Lyle, Crocodile. The characters are Lyle the crocodile, Mrs. Prim, Joshua, Loretta the cat, and Mr. Grumps and Senior Valente. And the setting is, well, there's like a couple of settings. So there's the zoo, East 88th Street, which is the main setting, and the store. And the problem is that Mr. Grumps doesn't like Lyle, and the solution is Lyle saves Mr. Grumps' life. And in the beginning, Lyle's happy living with the with his family, but the neighbor, Mr. Grumps, doesn't like him that much. So he said that Mr. Grumps said that if they don't get rid of Lyle, he'll do it himself. And so Lyle got sad, but he wanted to feel better, so he went to the store because it always makes him feel better. And at the store, he saw Senor Valente, who was his old friend because they used to do shows together, and they wanted their old skits. And Mr. Grumps saw her, who was working that day, and kicked them out. And after he's done with work, he goes over to the Prim's house and says that it was their last chance and that he was gonna bring Lyle to the zoo. So he brought Lyle to the zoo, and he was there, and Lyle kind of liked it. He liked the kids looking at him and laughing at him when he was performing his tricks, and but he didn't like it at night because he had no attention. But one night, Senor Valente came in and get dressed up as a guard and rescues him. And at the end, they get back to East 88th Street, and Lyle sees that Mr. Grumps' house is on fire. So Lyle runs over, breaks down the door, goes in, and saves Mr. Grumps' cat, Loretta, Mr. Grumps, and brings him outside. And Mr. Grumps thanks Lyle and lets him live with the Prims, and he likes him again.
Hi, my name is Keon, and I'm going to do a story retell on the book Pink and Say. The setting is in Atlanta, Georgia. The problem is the Civil War, and the solution is friendship, hope, and love. In the beginning, Pink and Say both leave their families, and Pink finds Say shot down, laying on the ground. Pink picks Say up off the ground, and he carries him like 25 miles to Pink's home. Pink's mother, Sweet Momo Bay, nurses Say back to health. They're in the middle of the Civil War path, and there's just them. The soldiers come to their home. Sweet Momo Bay hides them in the root cellar, and she goes out to find a hiding spot for herself. When Sweet Momo Bay was shot down, when all the noise was gone, they came out of the root cellar, and they found that Sweet Momo Bay was dead. They sat there for a few minutes, Pink and safe, and then they left, and were found by soldiers from the south, and taken away. Pink was thrown into a lion's pit, and Say was sent to jail for a couple of months. And when they released him, he told the story to his young daughter, and she passed it on to her son, and her son passed it on to his son, and his son passed it on to his daughter, and the story became a book.
Hi, I'm Chris H., and I am going to be retelling the book The Ant and the Elephant. And the characters are an ant, a tiger, a lion, a giraffe, a rhino, an elephant, a turtle, and a bird. The only setting is a forest, and the problem is everyone gets caught or stuck on things in nature. So, in the beginning, the ant was walking on a shore, and he accidentally fell into the water, and he couldn't get out of the water. And there was a turtle on the shore, and the ant asked the turtle if the turtle could help the ant get out of the water. And the turtle refused and walked on with his day. And so then he walked, when the turtle was walking, he climbed onto a rock, and when he was getting off the rock, he fell off the rock onto his shell, and he got stuck on his shell, but luckily there was a bird in the tree. And the turtle asked the bird if the bird could save the turtle, and the bird refused and flew off with his egg. And then while the bird was flying, he dropped the egg and couldn't find it. So then once the bird found it, then he couldn't fly with it because the weight overall was too heavy. And a giraffe came along and the bird asked if the bird could bring his egg and himself on the giraffe, and if the giraffe could take him home. But the giraffe said no and continued on, but then he didn't notice the vines in front of him, and he got stuck. All 4 of his legs got stuck, and the more he kicked, the more he got tightened, or the vines tightened. And so then when he just completely gave up, the lion came along, and the lion. What did the lion do? And so the lion was walking, and the giraffe asked if the lion could help pull the vines off his legs, and the lion laughed and said no. And so he walked on, and then when the lion was walking on, he laid down to rest or to take a nap, and he didn't notice the boulder running down. And when he was sleeping, he had his tail out, and the rock rolled onto his tail, and the rock got stuck in the ground. So then the rhino came along, and the lion was crying for help, and the rhino said no, and then ran down a hill, and then his horn got stuck in a tree stump, and then the rhino got stuck in the tree stump, and then the elephant came along, and then said, save the ant, and the ant asked how he heard him, and he said that elephants have big ears and they could hear almost anything. And then so he walked on and picked up the turtle and walked along and found the bird and carried the egg and put it in his nest. And then the bird flew up to his nest, and then the elephant went along and found the giraffe and untangled the vines, and so the giraffe was free. And then he found the lion and rolled the boulder off. And then while they were all walking down the hill, they saw the rhino, and they all pulled him away from the stump, and sooner or later he got off. But then the elephant came and was walking and fell down the cliff, and then the ant got all of his ant friends to go down and carry him, and they took him back up, and that's the end.
Hello. I have a book called The Two Bad Ants. The characters, two ants, a queen, a colony of ants, and a scout. Where did the story take place? Two places. The house, actually, yeah, that's it. Sorry. The problem, they were stuck in the house. In the beginning, the scout bring a crystal, which was a piece of sugar, and the queen decided, I guess I'll take a bite out of this new crystal. And then they went out and searched for more. Yeah, and they described the grass as forests, and the bricks of the house, a tall mountain that has no top. So then they go in the house, and then they find a futuristic world on the inside, and then they go into the sugar bowl, which is like a cavern or something, and then the two ants took a bite out of some sugar, and then they decided to stay there. And then the next morning they were asleep, then they were scooped up and they were put in they were put in coffee. And then they were almost drank up, and then they found a piece of bread they hid in the holes in the bread, and they were put in a toaster, which was a cave, and was filled with light, which was the light that cooks your toast. And then it was unbearably hot. Then they were shot out of it with the toast, and then they saw a waterfall, which was a kitchen sink, and they took a drink out of it. Then they were forced down into a whirlpool of food, and then they got out, and then they hid in two holes, and they were like slits. And if you know what happens to water with electricity, they got shocked, so they went in a plug-in. Yeah, so they went in, and then they got shocked, and they shot out like bullets out of there. And yeah, then they went home and they only took one crystal to their queen, and they never came back. They stayed home.